Hi there. In this video, I'm going to be sort of continuing the sort of workflow video that I did for how I made this dumpster. Now I'm going to be texturing it, and I won't be speeding this one up. This one will be a little bit more in depth. Before I start, doing anything in Photoshop, there are a few bits that I'm going to do inside of Max. Don't have to, but they make things a lot easier. First thing is rendering out the wires. I guess this one's kind of essential because you're kind of working blind without them. So with your unwrap open, we just go to Tools, Render UV Template, and for the settings that I use, I change my fill color to white and mode to solid, and turn off the seam edges and hit render, and that makes a sort of black and white one like that. And I also do one that isn't solid. It's just on none, and that makes a sort of wires one, which you probably can't see right now. There we go. You can see it's just wires. Okay, so those are the first things that I render out. I also am going to, and again, this really isn't essential, but sometimes can help a little bit. I'm going to sort of mark the colors of some of these elements to help me sort of get a sense of what colors I'm going to use and things like that. The reference I'm using for this video, for making this bin, is this one. It's actually a painting, but it's good enough for me to see what's going on, and I kind of like it. So I'm going to be going with white colors with sort of the red rust, black bin lids, fairly straightforward. So to get those kind of colors in there, I'm going to actually make a couple of quick materials. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to assign them just to certain bits. Now I'll just collapse the unwrap down because I tend to have a habit of doing that. And I'm going to select just the bin lids. I'm going to make a kind of blackish material. When you're making things that are black in textures, you never go really fully black because that just kind of kills everything. So I'm going to assign the black material to the lids. Then I'm going to use Control and I to select everything else, and going to deselect these wheels. I'm in element select mode here in case that wasn't obvious. I'm going to apply the white to those, and then the black again to the wheels. And you can use this to quickly test out texture palettes and things, and like colors and color palettes. See what you want, but yeah, like I say, not essential. And now we can use the rendering setup, and I'll go into more depth on this when I render out the ambient occlusion. But I'll do that once I've made the normal map. So because there'll be a couple of other bits that I get from the render. So to get these colors into Photoshop, we just go to rendering and render to texture. Okay, and once that's up, I'll close that out. And this has a whole load of settings, and right now we're going to do something really easy. So we do not need to care about most of this stuff. All we're doing is adding diffuse map, and that'll just get the colors that we've got, and picking the texture size. Now I'm going to be making a 512 texture, but I'm going to be working at 1024 because I like sort of working at double resolution. That's about it, and this dialog's too big for me to even click the OK button. And pretty much just hit render. It's saying it doesn't know where to put it, and actually I probably do need to change a path. I'm just going to quickly, in fact that'll do, save it there. Saving as PNG with 32 bits, not that that really makes much difference, but whatever. And I don't care that it's not going into material. Because there's no lights or anything, that was super quick. Now we should be able to find that. Okay, I have that. But unfortunately, did I render? Oh no, that's fine. Yeah, that's cool. So I'm going to copy this one and add it to my stuff. As you can see, I've already laid out stuff in Photoshop. I've not really done any work on it, but I've just kind of given everything a fairly sensible kind of structure. So I'm just going to paste that in. Let's take a look at what we've got here. Okay, so at the very top, I've got my two renders. This was the wires and the solids render. I've got this set to multiply, but if I just put this on normal and 100%, you can see it's just, I'll hide everything else. So there's no confusion at all. So we've just got, the wires are just, these wires. That was rendered out from the render UV template. Same with the solids. So there we go. They're just plain white. I like to take these solids down, and generally I'll hide them, but sometimes I'll want to see them. And the wires also, take them down and use them on multiply. That's good, and I can probably just collapse that now. So what else have we got? I tend to work on the height map first. I did not actually need to put that inside a normal map. There we go. So height map start off with the sort of flat grey, and then I'll have a normal map, which I'll start off again with the normal map. You'll start with a sort of flat, this purple colour. I've grabbed these from my swatches, but for your interest, the half grey is just 50% grey, and the flat normal colour is, if I open this up, 128, 128, 255, which is like half full. Okay. So there's our normal map. The diffuse, as you can see, we just got a base for our colours, which is kind of helpful, but not essential. And then we've got the specular, which right now is just black. So we've got our starting point, and as I mentioned already, I like to start with the height map. So showing my wires and working on a new layer, I'm going to start adding in some of the elements from the dumpster that I'm going to use my height map. Now, these are really quite chunky and thick. I won't be doing mine so chunky or thick. So mine will just be on my normal map. They're not actually modeled in or anything. So let's do those first. Really straightforward. We're just making a height map for them. So just going to make a sort of rectangular-ish selection, something like that. And it's a little bit smaller. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to expand that by a couple of pixels just to give us a slightly rounded edge. I'm going to fill that with white. Okay, as you can see, I've just had a slightly rounded edge there, barely noticeable, but just something. And then I'm going to duplicate that a couple of times. Just going to use Control and J 2 times, and then Control and T, and I'm holding down the Shift key as I move it to move it in just one direction. And there's the other one. We can probably have one more. And it would be nice if these were evenly spaced. Maybe we'll try for 5. Okay, that's near enough. I'm going to collapse these down so these are all on one layer. So I've selected them, right-click Merge Layers. I'm going to apply a layer effect now to them, layer style rather. This can be kind of hard to see. There we go, I'll pop them there. Okay, the one I'm going to use is Inner Glow. And by default it's set to screen, which means it'll make it lighter by this color. Of course, lighter than white doesn't really exist, so we can't see it doing any difference. But I'm actually going to be using it on normal, and I'm going to be using as a color this flat gray. And what this is doing is it's essentially saying I want like a bevel to come up from this amount, and I want it to be on 100% up to the middle of it. Now this looks really soft and round, but it's because it's a sort of linear gradient. This should come out sort of as sort of a sharpish edge. With something like Undo 2, this usually is a lot easier, but this is the technique that I'll be using, and it works fine. So those are those. What other bits do we have? So I'm just going to make a new layer, and just to start me off, I'm going to pick my background color black, and I'll just do a filter render clouds. And actually that one's not too bad. I'll stick with that one. I'll just Gaussian blur it a little bit. A bit more than that. Something like that should be fine. Maybe a bit more. Yeah, we'll go with that. And set this to very low opacity. All this is doing is it's making it kind of not perfectly flat because this dumpster looks, a little bit beaten up. So, it's not got flat surfaces anymore. So let's go with that. That's also another thing that we've got going on is there's some, I'm looking here now, there's some sort of sagging in the lids. Looks like they've been, because they're a black plastic, they've kind of caught the sun and they've melted a little bit, I guess. So they're sagging. So let's grab a big brush. So for some reason it's not, that's because I have the other thing selected. With a very soft brush, which is this one. I'm just going to paint with black. In fact, let's use one of my pretty brushes. I went to the trouble of making a whole bunch of brushes, so damn it, I want to use them. So with a nice low flow so that it builds on itself, we're just going to make it kind of darker in the middle, that kind of thing. Doesn't need to be neat, it's fine. That will do. And let's just take that way down because we do not need it to be that strong. just a subtle effect. While I'm here as well, this is probably a little bit too strong on these, so we'll just take them down a little bit. By having them on different layers, it becomes really easy to do that. Like I said, it's good to name your layers, so I'll quickly name these. So lid slats, I guess, bumpiness, and lid sag. And probably put that down there. Okay, let's hide our wires, and let's now make ourselves a normal map. So I'm going to paste this above normal map. I'm going to show normal map. So right now I've just got the whole lot flattened. I did that with Control-Shift-C to copy merged. Another shortcut I think is Control-Alt-E, I think. Control-Shift-Alt-E or something. I don't know what that is, but there is a shortcut for copy and paste merged in one go, but I'm fine with just Control-Shift-C and Control-V to copy merge and paste. Okay, now we've got this. Let's go to filter, and I do not have XNormal installed. That's surprising. Okay, well, I'll go do that. Actually, I changed my mind. I'm just going to use Crazy Bump because it's what I know and it's quick and easy. But I never realized how big the window was until I brought it onto this sort of low-res screen. Okay, so this says click here to begin, so I'm going to click there. Now, I still have everything copied, but just to remind you, to copy everything, I'm just going to Control-Shift-C, and that'll allow me to just paste height map from clipboard. And then it'll have a think, and it'll come up with a normal map, and a preview, which we'll bring over here. And hopefully you can see what's going on. Okay, right now it's too lumpy, but Crazy Bump's default settings usually are, so I'd like to bring them down. In fact, I might end up, let's copy it without, so let's delete this. We don't want the normal anymore. I'm going to show this, and I'm going to hide these two. I'm just going to grab this, Control-Shift-C, and do that again. The reason for this is I want different settings for the different elements of this. So for these, I'm just going to bring them way down so they're nice and sharp. This looks kind of pretty sharp. In fact, it could even go a little bit less. And that's really sharp now, and that's cool. That's what we want. So we're just going to copy normals to clipboard. This is good because this will give me an opportunity to show you something else. I've just pasted them into my normal layer. I can't see them. That's fine. Don't worry. And let's show the other two. Let's bring these into Crazy Bump. So open height map. And this time I do want those large details. It's kind of gone very stepped though. So what we'll do is we'll put in noise removal, or we'll just blur it in Photoshop. It's not a big deal. Let me zoom out. So you can see it's very strong. It's much too strong, but again, we can deal with that in Photoshop. It's just because I have a very small tonal range that we get this sort of stepped kind of appearance. But this is probably actually going to be okay. So that's copy that to clipboard and paste that in above our layers. So now let's have a look at our normal map. Now this is the one we've just done. We want to blur this a lot because this is way stepped and nasty looking. Okay, that's more like it. So that's blurred, and I'm going to hide that now, and we can see that this layer is looking good, so we can leave that as it is. But of course, these aren't working together, so how do we do that? We use the overlay blend mode, and that'll just kind of combine the two correctly. I've heard it said that you shouldn't overlay the blue channel, but never really seen much difference. So there we go, for normal maps this is. And of course this is way too strong, so we'll just dial this way back so it's barely even noticeable. You can almost not see it at all, maybe even less than that. Yeah, something like that. Because all those we're doing was just making it, sort of breaking up the flatness. Let's go for something like that. If you wanted certain bits to be more opaque than others, then you could easily use a mask. Perhaps I'll do that just to show what that might look like. So what I'm going to do is instead I'm going to leave it at 100%. I'm going to flood fill with kind of 70, and I'm going to paint on my mask using white and black. White is going to show it through more, and black is going to show it through less. So I'm just going to paint white a little bit on a low opacity just to make this area a little bit more obvious. So it's sagging a bit more, something like that. And you can see in my mask, looks something like that. Cool. So let's show our wires again, see where we're at. What do we need to do from this point? Okay. A little trick I like to do is when I've got, going back to Max now just to show you some of the edges. When I've got edges like these ones, oops, excuse me, these ones, these are, I've set them to hard, and on the whole that's kind of what I want, but they don't look very natural. They look super hard edge. Like the only kind of way you'd get that kind of an edge is in a sort of a rendering on a computer. In real life, edges just aren't that supremely sharp, except for like a knife. But obviously this is not a knife edge. So to make it look a little bit more believable, particularly if I've laid, whoops, I'll close down Crazy Bump now. If I've laid them out in a kind of sensible way and not like rotated them on crazy angles, then it's very easy for me just using a smallish brush. In fact, I use a smallish round brush, and I'm just going to paint using these colors here. 1, 2, 3, 4 are the different directions, and you can actually see them if I hide this one here. You can see them here. We've got this is facing left, this is facing up, this is facing right, this is facing down. It's the same as these 4 colors here. And just so that it's clear, I'm going to use, in fact, just color pick from them and find the edges that I want to sort of soften. So let's do that. If I make a new layer, call this lumpiness, call this slats, lid slats, and we'll call this one edge softens. Okay. And I'm just going to go around these edges. Oops. Color have I actually got here? Okay, for some reason I do not have that color. There we go, it's better. And just basically go over them all like this. So all the ones that I want to be facing up, which probably this one. This might seem to make not a whole lot of sense right now, but don't worry too much about that. You'll see it as soon as I apply it. It doesn't matter. So for example there, the angle was ever so slightly off, not going to be a big issue. That's the edge of the, I think that's the back, so that's fine. I want that to be a little bit softer. Then we need to zoom in a little bit for this. So this is the one that I originally pointed out, and you can see I've left some gap there, which is good. That's what I need. I'm going to put my flow up a little bit because on such a small brush it's not very hard. There, and yeah, we don't want that top one. For these, this is not strictly the right angle, but never mind. In fact, I'll show you another technique as well. To do this edge looking softer, I could do this edge and then this edge, but I still wouldn't be getting these bits quite right. We can go back and do a trick with our height map now. So let me hide these, and let's make a new layer, and we'll call this just a lid rounding. What I'm going to do is I'm going to grab, remember I rendered out the solids, I'm just going to control click on those, and on my lid rounding layer, I'm just going to flood fill with, oh, that's interesting, our wires don't quite line up with our solids. Okay, I'm going to quickly look into why that is and figure out which one is the correct one and which one is the wrong one. Okay, that's sorted. That can sometimes happen if you drag and drop images rather than copy paste them. So where were we? Oh yes. I was just going to show you how you can use the solids and just filling. I'll just deselect everything except for the actual bin bed itself. There we go. And using that as a starting point, I can flood fill with white, a little bit like we did with the slats before. Now, if I again apply a inner glow, exactly the same process again on normal and on this flat grey, 100%. Check the size of it and everything. Perhaps a slightly larger size for this one. That looks good. And we're just going to grab that, throw it into Crazy Bump, which I have now closed. And soften it up, sharpen it up. Perfect. In fact, this one doesn't actually need to be quite so sharp as the other ones. And you can see we're going to have a nice softness to it. So that's good. Copy that, close, and let's paste that in. Let's see what our normals look like for that with the wires on. And that's great. Oh no, that's pretty good. Yeah, it's one thing I'm looking for here is to make sure that it goes right fully to the edge. So that's cool. That seems to be working fine. So let's put that on overlay, and we can probably take down the opacity just a smidge. And indeed, I think I might. Heck, I'll leave it. It'll be fine, I'm sure. So let's just continue working on those edges. In fact, since I've already been showing you this, I'm just going to carry on, and I'll just speed up this bit of the video. Okay, I think we're about there. It's at this point that I would like to see how this is looking on the model. With less experience, I probably would have looked at it on the model sooner, but I kind of know what this is going to come out like, so it was fine to leave it till this late. So let's just go with dumpster normal. It's fine to save as PSD, which is what I tend to do. And let's start by making our material. I much prefer the slate editor. I used Compact just before because it was easier and I don't have much space. But on the whole, it's nice to work in slate if you can. And I'm just going to drag and drop the into material editor and connect that up to a normal bump. Connect that up to bump. And make this, because for some reason by default we start at 30, so let's put that up to 100. And then we want to apply this, so I'll just drag drop it to the thing, right click and show harden up viewport, and that will show us it with the normals on. Cool, so you can see we've already got, those are looking pretty good. Those edges I was talking about before, see how those are. So some of them are looking a little bit funky. I've probably just not quite got them right, but I'll maybe fiddle those. But on the whole, like, you can't tell unless you're pretty close. But it just gives a slight softening to them, which is nice. And yeah, I'm pretty happy. You can see that it just worked a little bit better. Cool. And we've got the wheels as well. You might have spotted me doing that. Made them kind of softer. They're looking perhaps a little bit too soft right now. I've perhaps gone a little bit overboard with the normal map on some of these. But this is, I'm not going to spend forever on this. I just want this whole thing to kind of be done fairly quickly. You can also see that these bin lids look like they've kind of got a little bit rounded, so they don't look quite so hard-edged. But I haven't done such a good job there. I think because I've probably gone a little bit too far into them. That probably doesn't help. Anyways, we're getting there. So at this point, we can take our ambient occlusion render, which I mentioned earlier. Once we've got our normal setup, there are a couple of things I like to do. So first type of render texture I'll do is usually the ambient occlusion. This will give us a sort of nice, sort of vaguely top-down lit thing. It'll give us some sort of shadows in areas which you'd expect to be in shadow. But there won't be specific lights, so they won't. It won't look like it's being lit per se. It'll just kind of fake that kind of global illumination. This just helps us pop some details and feel settled, stuff like that. So we do this by just simply adding in a skylight. That's in your lights, standard skylight. Pop it in, And we want to turn on cast shadows, and I'm going to take the samples down because that'll take forever if I render them like that. And in addition to this sort of casting it from all around, I like to put in something to block it so that it looks like it's coming from above, as I mentioned. There are a bunch of different shapes you can make to do this, but I find the cylinder's just fine. So let's convert that to neutral poly. And of course this will block out all light, but we do want it to come from above. So there we go. And let's just flip all of those faces so that it's facing the way we'd expect it to. Where's my flip? There's my flip. And I'll make it grey because it annoys me being in colour. Okay, and pop it in the middle of the scene. Okay, so what this is going to do is it's going to block any light coming from below, but it will also sort of bounce some of that light a little bit, which will look quite good. And it'll block some of the light coming from the sides. So we'll just get it kind of from an arc that's sort of above it. You don't want to raise these up too much, just enough, just a bit, because most environments that you put stuff in, it won't be completely out in the open. You'll have like either buildings or trees or something kind of around it. So that's why we have a little bit of a wall. That's why I like to put in a little bit of a wall. Cool. So let's render it. So the render to texture dialog, this should still be familiar. Again, we can ignore most of this stuff. We're just going to add a new one. We're going to use the, you can use shadows or lighting. I think you could do pretty much the same job in this circumstance. So let's just use lighting map. Set it to 1024 and make sure we're putting it in a sensible path. That's fine. Really, I should have named this so that these don't just come out as box 001, but oh well. That should do it. Let's hit render. Okay, so that's done. Let's copy that now. In fact, we'll save it out just in case we lose it somehow. In fact, wait, what am I talking about? It's already saved. I'm getting myself confused. I'm losing the plot. Sorry, guys. Okay, so that made a texture, this one here. So let's open that in from Photoshop and take a look. And that's cool. Let's copy that now into our texture. Let's go over to diffuse now, and let's start showing the diffuse. Okay, so let's take a look at what we've got. As you can see, in fact, I'll zoom in a little bit because I expect your resolution's going to be not very good on this video. As you can see, it's very noisy. That's because I rendered it with few samples because I didn't really want to wait around for a really long render, and my computer is not fast enough to do any better in 10 minutes. So what I'm going to do is, this is pretty normal for me, I'll render it at that sample rate and I'll just do a surface blur. It tends to do a pretty good job of preserving the sort of the hard edges whilst sort of dealing with the fine grain stuff. So that's probably the settings I had it on before, pretty good though. Still saw quite a bit of blurring, but that's okay. A little bit of blotchiness is actually quite interesting, I think. So I'll perhaps do that again. There we go. It's a bit better. So a couple of surface blurs has done the trick. As you can see, because we had the normals, we ended up with some more information than if we'd have baked it out without the normal maps. This obviously is just a flat surface, but because they were facing away from the upwards pointing direction, we've got something more there, which is quite cool. And indeed, we've lost them in the shadows where it's all kind of even, which is what you'd expect to find. We've also got very shadowed underneath these sort of side bits, which is cool. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to set this to multiply, and that's going to work in conjunction with the colors we rendered out before. And I'm just going to reduce its opacity because it's usually a little bit too strong. We don't want full black to actually completely kill it. So we're going to go with something like that, and I'm just going to save this now as, save it again as a Photoshop document, it's fine, and we'll call it D. And let's plug that in and see what we've got. So with our material back up again, let's pan over a little bit, and let's drag and drop the D over here, and plug it into our diffuse. And I'm just going to arrange these. There we go. A bit better. Okay, why is that not doing anything at all? Okay, I don't know what that was about, but it for some reason didn't rejig until I plugged it back in again. So I'm just going to collapse the UVs because they're getting in my way. And we can see we've already got quite a nice start to our texturing. So we've already highlighted some of these dark bits, which are helping to pop the lips forward and stuff. This feels like it's pointing sort of down a lot. We're getting some shadowing underneath the rail, which looks quite nice. Already we can see that these slats feel like they're there, even though they're completely flat. They look good, and we're getting some shadowing inside of here, where obviously not much light is reaching, which is what you'd expect, and some again underneath it. Some of the bits that are sort of breaking up that I should have foreseen a little bit, I should have put these bottom three on a not on top of each other, because right now this one and this one is sharing the same texture, which of course means this is a little bit too light. So I shouldn't have put them. I should have made the bottom three kind of separate from those. Shouldn't have overlapped them. But never mind. Live and learn. Otherwise, I'm pretty happy that we can start texturing this properly now. So. Not that it was improper in any way before, but we haven't done any diffuse work, which is always the sort of the fun stuff. So let's take a look at our reference again. Here we have our reference. We want some of this sort of rusty stuff, and I've gone to the liberty of searching CG Textures, which is a texturing website that just has a bunch of royalty-free textures that you can use, and I found us a bunch of textures that I think might be useful. Cool. So if you see them coming in from the left, I'm just going to leave these on the left because it's just easy for me. But that's where I've got them from. They're from CG Textures, and it shouldn't be too difficult if you wish to find them for yourself. They have loads of stuff, so they're always a good place to check. Okay, couple of things. I feel that this isn't white enough. It feels kind of grey. We want it to look white, so I'm just going to brighten up the white areas. So I'll select everything that isn't the lids and isn't the wheels and isn't the rail. Yeah, I think so. That's all of them. Cool. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to brighten them up some. So let's use. I'm going to use levels. Levels is a really good adjustment layer to use. So we can simply increase it all to be brighter like this, but that will make it less contrasty. Instead, what we could do is bring down the upper bounds, and that'll just lighten it. And we can move our midpoint if we wish to keep the shadows dark. I don't think we really need to though. Let's leave it in the middle. And let's also push this a little smidgen. Cool. Okay, let's try that. Some of these are looking really bright, so we might need to adjust them. Let's just hit save, and because we're working, we're just hitting save, and because it's a Photoshop document and everything, it'll just update it, which is pretty helpful. I think we can even go a smidgen lighter. It's good to get these tones right early on. I feel we're blowing it out a little bit up here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set that blend if, and I'm on grey. Now we can use this to not touch the lightest parts. Now obviously that's a bit like either or by just sliding this thing, but if we just drag this thing here, then we can reduce how much we do them, but that's not doing what I want it to. So heck, let's just blow them out. It's not the end of the world. There. Let's try that. Cool, that feels white now. That's good. I mean, you don't want to use full white, but it was just looking a little bit too grey before. And those shadows, they're still there, but they're not like, they don't look unnatural. They're just kind of present. That's cool. Okay, let's start to incorporate some of these rusty bits and things. So I'm just going to grab. This one looks good. Let's go with this. And I'm just going to pop this. So try and put these things where they make sense. So I'm just going to pop this kind of about there and set it on multiply and delete the bits that we don't want. In fact, let's just use a mask. It's probably easier than anything. So we're just showing it there. Cool. And I'm going to blend if this layer is light, I don't want to use it. so it's just not going to change the color of my stuff so much. That's better. Let's see what that looks like. Super cheaty, quick ways of doing stuff, but sometimes it works, sometimes it looks good. That's nice, but I feel it's a little bit too symmetrical. What I liked about the original reference, let's go back to that, is how asymmetric it was. I liked that it was kind of asymmetrical, and I've unwrapped this so that it's not mirroring or anything down the middle, so let's try and make use of that, I feel. So either let's grab a different ref, or perhaps we can just drag some of these bits out. So let's try that. With this, I'm just going to unlink these so that if I make changes to this one, it doesn't change my mask. I'm going to use Control Shift and X, and I'm going to use the liquefy. That's what that does. Control Shift X is liquefy. And I'm just going to see if I can just eke these down a little bit, make them a little bit more big. Still want that to be flat though, so I'm going to reconstruct that. My computer will keep up. Not that much though. Let's try that. And you can tell it's kind of blurring a little bit, which I don't like. Let's put that back. Bad change. Let's do it the other way around. Let's start to hide some of these. So let's just kind of push these up so that they're not quite so prominent. No, I don't like that either. What I will do though is I will line these up so that these match with, it's kind of hard to tell right now because I'm not seeing the rest of the image, but if I show the backdrop you can kind of see a little bit better. I'm lining up this sort of line here, and I'll line up this line too with that detail there. And then I'm just going to reconstruct the top bit so that it lines up there. Let's try that. Cool, so they're lining up with sort of this thing we've got here. It just kind of makes sense to do that. And I don't really know what's going on here, but I don't think I want it. So let's delete that from our mask. So with the mask selected, just hit delete. Or perhaps I won't delete it. You'll notice that a lot of this is just sort of trial and experimentation. You don't necessarily know what's going to come out looking best first time, so don't worry too much if it looks a bit wrong to begin with. Yeah, let's try that. Let's hit save and take a look. Okay, so that was my bottom bit. Obviously, because I had to rotate this bit because I got it the wrong way around. But that's cool. This detail feels a bit weird there. I'd like to place it there, so let's try and do that. Let's just use regular lasso, and don't want that. And I'm just going to feather that selection. Actually, I'll hit refine edge because refine edge is nice, because it just helps us to see it a bit better. That'll do. So OK to that, and then just Control T, pop it up there. That's better. Looks like there's a weird kind of gap here though, so it doesn't look right. So let's just clone it, fluid paste T there, and also bottom here. There we go. That's better. Cool. Good. I'm going to probably grab another texture that's similar and see if we can reduce the amount of stuff on this side. So let's do that. This guy here, yeah, this is not so strong, is it? That's good. Looking for a good bit. Let's use this bit here. That looks just as strong. Let's use that bit there, I think. So again, what have we got? We're on multiply. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set this one to being a clipping mask, which I can do with Control Shift G. No, Control G. No, that's group. Control G. Control Alt G. And that'll just replace it where we don't want it. We'll use a mask again. And I'm going to use this one, which is like if I paint with this, so you can see what kind of brush this one is. Okay, so we're not painting. That was silly of me. There we go again. You see, it's like it won't make a line. It's just good for when you want to, particularly for like masking and stuff, it won't be so obvious. We want it. Interesting. Why is that kind of? Oh, because I'm painting with grey. Okay, let's go back down, and that's better. Okay, so we want this stuff on the right, and not so much the stuff on the left. There we go. So you can see it's just kind of reduced the amount of stuff on that side a little bit, which is cool. Though I quite like some of these bits here, so I'm going to just erase away that. I'm going to reduce the opacity so I can see what I'm doing. Keep that bit, pop the opacity back up again. Good. Let's see how we're looking. Cool. I'm going to hide this because that's getting in my way now. Okay. Cool. And let's repeat this for the other sides. Okay, so I think we've got this sort of the base rust covered. Let's move on to the next thing. I'd like to add some writing here, so I'm going to do that with, close this out, and let's make a new one. Call it text, and let's just, we can just copy that, what that one said, so I think it was City of Reading, spelled DD, like that. Let's pop that somewhere so we can see it, and let's change the, this one I guess we'll do. Yeah, this will do. So let's change the size of that, something like that. Remember that this is going to be half of this resolution, so I don't want to make it too small. And I probably want this, see, let's leave it on. And I'll set this onto multiply, and we're going to use as a font color, before I do that, because now I can't see the thing. Let's use, what color do we have? We had blue in our reference, so let's just copy that blue. I think it's kind of about there-ish. Yep. And let's multiply that now. I think it's not so saturated and probably a little brighter. Yeah. Yeah, something like that. Let's pop it right in the middle. Cool. We want to use a mask for this because right now it looks like it's just been printed on. It's nice to have it. I'm going to make it a little bigger. There we go. Let's make it look like it's kind of worn. So let's grab a kind of grungy brush and paint with black. Just trying to get that look right. This is better. Okay, that's not too bad. Looking now, the font in my reference pick is kind of almost Arial kind of style in capitals, so I might just copy that and then maybe tweak it a little bit. So let's go with something, yeah, let's go with Arial on bold. Yeah, let's go with that. That's better, I think. Cool, let's see how that looks. Nice. Okay, let's look at our bin lids. Right now they're very uniform. Probably we can get away without using a photograph. It's nice to use photos because they tend to have more sort of structure to them than grunge brushes, but for something like this I'm sure it'll be fine. So that's the sort of brush that I'm using. I obviously don't want to do it quite like that. So we're going to use it on, let's use a slightly reddish black. So yeah, so it's kind of like a mucky brown. maybe even a little bit more orange. Yeah. And of course we want to mask it, so let's do that. Oops, that was on my brush then. And we'll lower the flow some. And probably I don't want quite so much noise in there. So I'll just erase that away with this brush. Let's go lower opacity. And I think before we do that, I'd like to pop the these a little bit more. So I'm going to do that. I'll tell you what, I'm going to grab from my height layer, I'm going to grab the lid slats. I'm going to duplicate them and bring them up to my lid. See those? Cool. I'm going to set them to multiply, and where before I had the inner glow on normal, I'm going to put that on multiply, and I'm going to put that color down to black. And you can see that's just popping them a little bit more. So with and without, there you go. It doesn't need to be quite that strong, maybe. That will be enough, I think. It's not much, just a little something. Yeah, now they still stand true with the grunge on them. And I'm going to reduce the grunge because it's a little bit too much. Let's try that. That's looking better. So just not quite so uniform anymore. In fact, I actually still want a little bit more variation. So let's paint with, this one looks good. That's good. I'm going to paint in black, and I'm going to blur this one because I don't really want this one to be doing a whole lot. In fact, I'll apply the layer mask here rather than there. Yeah, and like I say, I'm going to blur this one. Just a Gaussian blur is fine. I'm going to blur and then I'm going to sharpen. So probably blur a little bit much, then sharpen, and sharp mask. That's way too strong. I don't know what I was doing with that before. Let's go about here. Yeah, that looks cool. And I'm just going to lower the opacity way down. Yeah, that's cool. In fact, I'll set this to overlay rather than anything. Yeah, because I'm kind of just darkening the whole thing off, which I don't really want. Let's apply a levels just to this, so Alt G to make a clip mask, or not. Okay, why are you not letting me make a clip mask? I do not know. And I'm just going to stretch these. Yeah, so they're not quite also black. If I make this stronger, you'll see that it's interesting. But yeah, we want to leave it on 15. Bits have made it kind of reddish now. Is that coming through? That is coming through. I don't really want that. Whoops. Put that up there, and we'll just desaturate it. There we go. That's better. Cool. That's looking much nicer. Yeah, we don't want it to be so noisy that we can't see the slats. It's just something so it's not so flat. Even when there's no grunge, you can see that it's no longer an even color. It's been around long enough for it to have been faded in bits, and yeah, we wouldn't have wanted an even color. So we're looking pretty good. The wheels, let's do those. These will be really quick because these are small things, and I don't really care enough about them to spend ages on them. So with those, let's do wheels there. Wheels. Oops. New there. Let's just use a brushy brush. I'm going to intersect that with Transparency mask, just to paint on that. Oh, actually, probably that's okay. Let's go with a brighter colour. I need to paint on that. I meant to paint on this. Not quite that bright. Let's try that. Yep, that's about the right tone. And that wheel probably needs to be a little bit brighter. We can see the top is actually there. So let's paint that some. Take that down. Cool. And probably if that is the top, then this will be where the wheel is, I think. Like the cover bit. Let's try that. Can't see anything at all. Did I save it? Yes, I saved it. Maybe still a bit too dark. Okay, there we go. So that wasn't the top, that was just a random bit. Probably a better idea actually just to keep them all an even kind of colour. And then let's do a hard sort of circle kind of in the middle, like it's our wheel platey bit. Do that in fact on a new layer so that I can, if I do it with full hardness, pop that in the middle, and then let's do a couple of layer effects on that. Yep, that's good. Save that out. How are we looking? Yep, not quite in the where we want it there. Let's try that. Better. Okay, it's a little bit light, so let's lock the transparency. Paint with 10%, just take it down a couple. Better. And then finally on these guys. The soft brush, super soft. Leave it on low opacity, go with that. So we're just simulating a kind of shadowing, and in fact, let's do it really hard at the very top. Because it's supposed to look like it's kind of going in. I must have missed save. It's better. Good. I could spend a bit more TLC on the wheels, but they're not so important, and yeah, whatever. Right, I think, oh, we've got this handle here. Let's do that one real quick. I guess I just forgot that. Actually, I'll do it at the base rust here. Let's just duplicate one of these, bring it down. I'll just use one of these. It's not really a handle, what is that? Hinge thing. Let's see how that looks. Yeah, that'll do. Looks sufficiently nasty. Okay, let's move on now to the speculars. We've got the normals pretty much looking how we want. We've got the diffuse looking pretty much how we want, but it's not kind of popping because there's no speculars, and speculars are pretty, so let's throw those in. As a starting point, we're going to copy our diffuse, I think. Yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to copy the whole group, and call it specular. I'm going to delete this one because I'm not going to use that. And I'm going to start to sort of do some destructive things on these, but that's okay because we've got stuff in diffuse. So I'm going to merge the whole base rust group. Okay, we'll go with that. So it just needed to be set to sort of multiply. And where have we got all of these things? Okay, so now where we had the bin lid was darker, I'm actually going to invert this so that the bin lid is brighter, because I think the bin lid's like a plasticky kind of material that's going to be a bit more reflective than the sort of old paint. So let's go with that. And we're going to increase the sort of the contrast on this, specifically just the rust. So if I apply a clipping mask now, and you can see I can use these controls to make it really dark for the rusty bits. Whereabouts do we want this? About there. We'll also desaturate this a lot. There. This is just making sure that our rust is really not specular, because we really wouldn't want it to be. That text can be a little bit brighter, because let's imagine that it's nice to have some sort of variation. So let's imagine that what this was sprayed on with was quite a glossy kind of paint. So we're going to again we can just desaturate this, but we're going to lighten it a lot as well. Whoa, whoops. So if I make a clipping mask, is that going to play ball? It will, marvelous. And so we can put this one on normal. And we can see that that's really coming out too much now. That should be enough. Yeah, I think probably all of our levels can come down some. So let's bring these down. And this as well, I think. Sorry, the lid. Oh, because this mask is preventing me from changing the lid. That's fine. I just need another levels adjustment. So let's do that. And let's just bring the lid down some. Still want it to be more specular. And in this lid, we want much stronger variation, particularly on the grunge. In fact, I'm going to duplicate that out a couple of times and make that really not grungy. In fact, I'm going to offset it and kind of do another mess around so that there's some variation. Even where we've not got variation in the diffuse, we've got some more variation in the specular. Along those same lines, let's do another layer on top. With this point, I like to grab, I've got a bunch of textures that are just kind of tiling kind of texture things. Let me find those. Got a feel, are they 1024? They are, marvelous. So I'm going to go with this one. It's obviously got color, and I don't really want it to have color, but that's fine. I can just whack black and white on it, merge it down. It's not going to let me merge it because this is still a smart object. I do not want it to be a smart object. Not right now, thank you very much. Merge that down, and we're just going to multiply or maybe let's overlay it over the top of everything. And this just gives us some sort of variation in everything in our specular. And that's good. And I also recommend what we're going to do is we're going to make our gloss as well. No, that says floss. Gloss. There we go. And for that, I'm going to hide this one, copy everything, paste it, and I'm going to duplicate just this one. And just as we went over it with this, we're just going to actually rotate it by 90 degrees so that it's all in a different position. And it just gives us some more kind of variation. And it's nice to get sort of more variation in the gloss as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase this one, so it's more different, as it were. Good. And obviously gloss is going to just be black and white, so let's properly black and white that. Good. So let's review the specular again. I'll turn that back on. That's okay. There's tiny bits of red. I'm okay with that, I think. So let's apply this in the way that I normally would, which would be, I typically would have the gloss on my alpha channel. So let's make a new alpha channel. And hide the gloss again. And let's save this one out now as speculars. Cool. One last update to make sure that we've got the latest of everything. So save this one as diffuse. And save this one as normal. There's me sort of doing wrap up, assuming that this is going to look alright. Let's take a look, see if it actually does. So let's bring in our specular, which is just over here. It's strange it doesn't have a preview, but whatever. For this one, we're going to need to plug this into specular level and specular color, and we're going to need to duplicate that. And in our settings, we want, if I plug this into glossiness, and we want to change, so it doesn't think it has an alpha. That must be because it's a Photoshop document. Okay, that's not a problem. I'll just save it out as Targa or something. Save as. In fact, I could just call it gloss. Except obviously I need to show the gloss, so let's save that as gloss. And we'll just keep it as a separate texture for now. When we take this into an engine or whatever, we would sort this out then. So where's our gloss gone? There you are. And plug that straight into gloss. We probably need to change some of the strengths of stuff because Max's default specular is like nothing. So let's so it's kind of in our way a bit, but whatever. Let's take the specular level way up, and because we've got a skylight in, it's kind of killing anything. Give me one moment. Oh, it might be I just need to reapply it. Do I? Nope. Okay, so it was working fine like this. It was just all really low spec. So you can play around with these levels to get them looking better. I'm surprised that I'm not seeing any, but it could just be because this is a very light kind of colored surface, or it could be because my gloss is too dark. Yeah, no, I kind of wouldn't think so, but whatever. This is the kind of like speculars particularly, you kind of have to look at them in the engine to get them right, but you can see where they should be coming from, you know, and you can see there's kind of interesting speculars going on here, which is good. No, they're not nuts, but they're kind of just something you can tell this is dirty, you know, even though it's a fairly uniform-ish color. Good. That pretty much concludes this video. Hopefully that was helpful. Okay, bye.